It's a blast. It's a blast. I mean, it's every game's extremely important, and the crowd knows it. Both teams know it. Obviously, these guys are in the hunt as well, and so this is great September baseball, and to be back a part of this is exactly why I wanted to be here. And we talked about it in April and May, and now to be September and be in the spot that I hope to be in is awesome.
Very excited. I feel very healthy. So it's fun to be a part of this team and play the game I love. So I'm very excited. Probably a little bit. I felt like I was still kind of grinding through some stuff then, and we're also getting to that crunch time. So it's game time,
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Marty Time TV. I am Marty Caswell. That is AJ Cassavell here on a Tuesday. We are brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. You heard it right there from Michael King on Monday afternoon at that time with 19 games left to go. It's game time. It's crunch time. AJ Cassavell, are you ready for this final stretch?
I am, and I think Michael King's return is like the signifier that it has started because they need him more than I think I wrote this today that they need Michael King to be Michael King more than anything in order for them to reach their World Series caliber ceiling, because the rest of the roster is pretty complete. The offense is deep. The bullpen's awesome. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're getting through October with maybe one reliable starter in Nick Pivetta, and then the rest of the guys as question marks based on what we've seen from Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish. But I think they could get through October with two guys at the front of the rotation, and Pivetta and King, and kind of make it work beyond that. So this is kind of the start of it. This is the start of the stretch run. And I think 4 starts for Michael King to kind of find that form, which is what he would have if you kind of line up the days. That's the right number.
I think Michael King alluded to it yesterday that he could have returned sooner, but I'm sure after the setback that he had after only one start versus the Red Sox, and going back on the IL with the knee inflammation, I guess abundance of caution. They want to make sure they have him when it matters the most, and that's going to be playoff time.
Yeah, and part of it too, I think the way he framed it was like he could have pitched his last turn through the rotation when he threw that stimulated game or whatever it was in Peoria. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He also didn't want to return if there were question marks about how he was feeling, how he would do, because mm-hmm. These games are important too. The Padres are in a playoff race right now. When he comes back, he wants to hold himself to a standard of being Michael King, being the guy who finished who I had in my top 5 Cy Young voting last year. He wants if he's finding his feet, if he's treating it like a rehab start, he's coming back, now is not the time for that. It's September. These games mean a lot. Granted, I think he had a lot of talk about how he wants to hit the ground running and be the dominant version of himself starting tonight. I think it's fair to give him some leeway tonight if he's not the best Michael King, because the starts matter a whole lot more in 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks from today will be game 1 of the playoffs. So that's what they're building toward here. And that's what he needs to be Michael King for. I think Michael King has probably the highest ceiling of any Padres starter. I mean, you could argue Dylan Cease if he kind of puts everything together, he's the most dominant of them. But I think we've seen what King can do in big games in the playoffs and how good he looked against Atlanta last year, how good he's looked in key moments. I mean, I think he pitched pretty well against the Dodgers and he gave up some runs in that game. But this is the guy, he could be the Padres game 1 starter. Nick Pivetta has minimal playoff experience. I think you could easily make a case it's him, but Michael King could be your game 1 starter. So how he pitches the next 3 weeks is very, very important, and whether he's healthy.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm distracted by my headphones. They're squeezing my head. They are an extra small. It's it belongs to my nephew who is 7 years old because I'm having a malfunction with mine. So excuse me if I'm distracted. When it comes to Michael King tonight, now I think he mentioned he threw around 70-ish pitches, right, in his last side session. So how cautious could the Padres be with him tonight, given everything that you just said? And they do, and given the strength of their bullpen, of course, you want to go ahead and you want to minimize those innings. They will be needed. And I know Mike Schultz said yesterday that he manages every single game. He's going to manage tonight's game versus the Reds the same way he will a spring training game, which I don't know that I believe him, but how cautious should they be, given what's at stake?
Mike likes to say that and then kind of also in the same sentence, then go ahead and say, but these games are really important and we're going to go after them. And then he'll say that they're important in April too.
Mhm.
Regardless of all that, I think they're going to manage Michael King's workload with some caution today, but not an abundance of caution, not an overabundance of caution maybe, because they want to get him built up. They want him to have these 4 starts. And ideally, Michael King is Michael King, and when he's on, he's a pretty efficient pitcher. He can go deep into games. So I would say, I wouldn't expect 7 innings out of him, but I could see him going 5, and if he's efficient enough working into the 6th, then it's also predicated on I think the Reds are a pretty good offense, so he's got to get outs, and if he's not, I think they want him getting up and down at least 4 times, so work into that 4th inning at the very least, because then you can build on that to 5, and then you can build on that to being ready for those last 2 starts of the season. And they could, part of this is I don't think they're going to chase down the Phillies for the number 2 seed in the bye. So part of this is then setting up. It's possible, but it seems unlikely at this point. So part of this is setting up for the wild card series, whether that's at home if they catch the Dodgers or the Cubs, or whether that's on the road. So he needs to be built up for that full start and kind of feeling a little bit of a groove going into that start, while also acknowledging that these starts are really important too, because every game could be the one that decides whether they're playing these games at Petco Park or whether they have to go to Chicago or something like that.
I thought that it was rather remarkable that all the conversations we had about whether or not the Padres could survive their starting pitching woes, right? We had almost a 10-week stretch. I'm sorry, almost nearly a 2-week stretch where they could not get a quality start. They couldn't get anyone into the 6th inning since Nick Pivetta on August 24th. There's a small irony that they pretty much had 3 straight quality starts from their starters in Colorado, right?
Course, yeah.
Right. Of course, of all the places, it's gonna be Coors Field. But how important are these starts for Dylan Cease to figure out what his role is going to be come playoff time?
They're huge, and I think they're huge for Yu Darvish and possibly even Randy Vasquez if those two guys don't step up. I think most likely it's going to be Dylan Cease. If this is headed toward a wild card series, which again, it's still possible. The Padres catch the Phillies. I think the Phillies have a decently tough schedule. I think they still play the Mets and they play the Dodgers, and obviously the Padres have to catch the Dodgers as well. So that's a long way of saying unlikely, but it's possible the Padres aren't playing a wild card series. But let's operate under the assumption that they are, because that's the likeliest outcome here. They need to figure out who that 3rd starter is, because it's Michael King, Nick Pivetta, or Nick Pivetta, Michael King in games 1 and 2. And ideally you win games 1 and 2, but you obviously have to have a plan for game 3. So they need to figure out who they're willing to give the ball to, with potentially their season on the line in 1 game. And based on the way Dylan Cease has pitched this year, you wouldn't be all that comfortable with it because of the inconsistencies that he's shown. And because the fact that when he's dominant, he's awesome, but he has a propensity to kind of find a little bit of a struggle and then blow up within a start, even when he looks really good. So I guess you can manage a little differently in what would be game 3 of a wild card series. You can go to that bullpen really quickly. You have the bullpen that you have. You can ask guys for multiple innings in a game that's that important. But they really need Dylan Cease to kind of find himself and be Dylan Cease and at least be a guy that they can trust handing the ball to and say, you know what, we feel pretty good about getting 5 innings from you. And if you kind of stumble a little bit, then we can go to our bullpen. But right now, I don't know if they would feel good about him being that guy because of how inconsistent he's been, but they at least feel like it's in there. And like Michael King, he's got kind of 4 starts to build up and get to that point for what would be a very, very important playoff start, whether it's the wild card series or the division series. I think you can get by in the first 2 rounds with 2 starters and this bullpen, and then maybe some question marks at 3, but you need to have someone at some point in that number 3 spot. And you need to start someone in those games anyway that you feel confident enough in. And obviously maybe a little bit more offense would help the cause, but it comes down to they need someone capable of starting those games.
Yeah, speaking of the offense, I did hear Mike Schultz say yesterday in pregame that contrary to popular belief, he does not hate home runs. So I'm sure I know what Merrill said yesterday in postgame, that's the kind of game he takes more enjoyment from the way the Padres came back yesterday, a 4-3 after a 3-0 deficit than a blowout. But I'm sure if you're Mike Schilt and you want to go ahead and figure out this pitching staff, you wouldn't mind a blowout here or there. All right, so I wrote this down. So Darvish was yesterday. He was very good. Michael King tonight, Nick Pivetta tomorrow. Who is Thursday? Is pretty much Randy Vasquez here on out, especially with Nestor Cortez? I mean, he's done. His season's done, correct?
Cortez? I mean,
yes, Cortez.
It seems likely. I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know that it's definitively done, but like, given kind of what he's showed in his starts with the Padres, it's like there's guys that you trust more than him getting the ball in these starts, and so you keep rehabbing him in the event that you would need him. But given who the Padres' options are now, I think it's probably done. So it's Vasquez going forward, and Vasquez, like, he's had like one of the most fascinating seasons I've ever seen, because he keeps finding himself in trouble and he keeps working his way out of it, and he keeps giving up decently solid contact, but just not quality contact to the point where he's not giving up too many home runs, and he's navigating his way. Strandy Vasquez, he's been unbelievable in that role. So like his numbers are really good, and I think like when you look back on this season, like you have to give Randy Vasquez a ton of credit for helping the Padres rotation get to where it's been, for helping keep things afloat. You also have to ask yourself, get to the playoffs, like who do you trust? Is he a guy you could start for, like, if you need that, like, I don't know, this is way down the road, but like game 4 of an LCS, which the Padres, like, it's part of the reason their season fell off the rails in 2022 was because they didn't have that number 4 option. Or as a long reliever, as a bullpen. So I don't know if he's I don't know the specific role for Vasquez down the stretch, if he's making all these starts, if they look at him in different capacities with maybe like an opener or lefty opener going to Vasquez. I know they did that with
Peralta
to get Ohtani and Freeman in LA with Peralta. There's maybe different roles they want to see him in, but I think I've been challenged kind of my baseball thinking by what Randy Vasquez has done this season. And I am at the point where I'm willing to give Randy Vasquez the credit for, despite the fact that the peripheral numbers are not good, like there's something about him being able to work his way into trouble and then out of trouble that is a skill that he does well, and that can be helpful for the Padres into the postseason, whether it's long relief, mop up, whatever. Probably not a start in an early round series, but it's still useful.
If Strandy Vasquez is not in a t-shirt by the end of this homestand, I'm going to be very, very disappointed. Guys at RotoWire, if you're watching this, Strandy Vasquez, make it happen. Make it happen at least for AJ Cassavell, who has spent so much time just wondering how he gets it done. Is he in some ways like last year's Matt Waldron, when you think about the value that he provided to the Padres long-term in the course of the season?
Yeah, I think you can make that comparison because, like, except Vasquez hasn't reached that time where he kind of blew up. Like Waldron was I think Waldron was clearly more dominant than Randy Vasquez has been for the stretch where he was really good. And then he also hit a point in the season where the hitters figured him out and he wasn't that good anymore. Vasquez never hit that point, but Vasquez was also up and down for the last month and a half. So maybe the Padres never allowed him to hit that point because of the way they've operated. I don't know. I think hold off on the t-shirt. Let's see how he pitches. Okay. What would it be, Thursday? And then if he does it again, put it on a t-shirt because he's been unbelievable.
Okay, very good. Last night, there was a snafu in the first inning between Yu Darvish and Freddie Fermin because of the pitch comm. That portion aside, and listen, trading for a catcher at the deadline is there major challenges because you have an entire new pitching staff to learn. How much do the Padres pitchers trust Fermin at this point? It's a big process. I'm sure he's a guy that can benefit a ton from a full spring training. But how much trust is there in Fermin with his pitching staff?
I think there's a lot of trust, like for a guy who arrived now, because I think he goes out of his way to get to know the pitchers and to do his homework, and the pitchers kind of appreciate all that. The snafu in the first inning was probably unfairly highlights for me because I think it was a pitch comm issue. It was I'm still trying to kind of get down to the logistics of what exactly happened, but I'm pretty sure it went something like this. Like Yu Darvish wanted to call for a 2-seamer, and I think they both have pitch comm pads where they can both call pitches if they want to. So Yu Darvish was trying to call for a 2-seamer. It wasn't going through. Okay. And without a pitch and with a 3-2 count and with the pitch clock winding down, Freddie Fermin, without getting that signal, he put in curveball, which Darvish admitted himself afterward that curveball wasn't a bad pitch. He threw a bad curveball.
Okay.
And it got hit out for a home run. Like, I don't know that if I'm looking at all that, I don't know what happened with the pitch comm. I don't know what happened with, like, whether, for me, it was the first batter of the game. So you assume it was something like, did he have the right one put in? I don't know the details. I don't want to speculate too much, but like, that's not something I'm going to blame Freddie Fermin for. It seems kind of more like a freak fluke accident. I think he has earned the trust of these pitchers in a significant way. Granted, like, when you've worked with a catcher for 10 years, like, you're going to have more trust with him. And when you're catching a guy like you, Darvish, like, it's going to take time to maybe not build that trust per se, but just build an understanding of what he wants to go to in those spots. Because like, if you're catching Dylan Cease and the pitch clock's winding down and the question is like, it's like, oh man, I got to figure something out. What am I going to put down? It's either fastball or slider. I know different versions of fastball, kind of different versions of breaking balls, but like, it's, you say, all right, shoot, we're running out of time. Fastball, we're running out of time, slider, and there's not much to think about. With you, Darvish, there's like 9 different pitches to think about, so you hit a button and you hope it's the right one, but chances are it's not the one that you, Darvish, was thinking until you build that rapport. But I've said this before, I think the Padres went out and acquired Freddie Fermin because, like, they gave up a good amount to get him, I think.
Yes, they did.
And they went out and got him because they felt that they had the option to acquire other catchers. They felt that he was the kind of guy and personality that could adapt mid-season, and there were maybe some other catchers out there that would have struggled to do so, joining a new clubhouse. And from what I've seen, and from what the pitching staff has done, particularly the bullpen, like, I think he's done a fine job acclimating himself.
Yesterday, AJ Cassavell, go ahead and enjoy some of that coffee right there. Had a chance to catch up with Xander Bogaerts briefly in pregame. He was not in the walking boot, which is good news for him. He was limping around the clubhouse and that at the end of the last homestand before the Rocky series. And he says that he expects, or he's hopeful that he's going to return during the regular season. Now, I'm not sure how likely that is, but in Xander Bogaerts' absence, who is the Padres' best shortstop offensively, and why is the answer Jake Cronenworth?
Well, the answer is Jake Cronenworth offensively, but like, I mean, This is one that I know a lot of fans are clamoring for, and maybe I think generally, like, a lot of these lineup questions this year, I have held. Those headphones okay for you?
Oh my goodness!
I think generally I've held like a lot of the same sentiment as or at least the same questions that the fan base has had for some of these lineup concerns. With this one, I'm kind of fine with Jake Cronenworth at first and at second, Luis Ariz at first, or Ryan O'Hearn at first, and then you put Iglesias and Mason McCoy at short, because like, the defense is really important too. Yeah. And one thing that having 2 shortstops provides you, and then also Jake Cronenworth provides you, is the opportunity to pinch hit the moment the situation is a big one. So I guess if you're facing a right-handed pitcher, for me, it's a toss-up. It's either Jake Cronenworth at short, Luis Ariz at second, Ryan O'Hearn or Gavin Sheets at first, and the other at DH. And then, or you can have Iglesias starting at short, and you're probably not going to get anything offensively with Iglesias against a right-handed pitcher. Against the lefty, like, I'm starting Iglesias every time because he's great defensively there. Cronenworth's great defensively at second. They're solid at first with whoever they put there. And then if they're losing in a game, then you pinch hit with whoever's on your bench. If you need to pinch hit again, you can do that again. You can pinch hit for McCoy because you still have the option of moving Cronenworth. So you have the option of using 2 bench bats. And granted, there's usually only one like really strong bench option on a nightly basis. But I'm fine with the way they're playing it at shortstop. I do think that if Bogaerts' injury was like Kim's last year, where he was done for the season,
yes, then
maybe you reassess and you get Jake Cronenworth every single day at shortstop reps and you make it work. But because Bogaerts is coming back, maybe the final series of the regular season, like, you just withstand for now, and you kind of keep it where it is, and you don't need to be working Jake Cronenworth into everyday shortstop reps. I think Jake Cronenworth would be just fine there, but I think you're losing something at second base when Jake Cronenworth is playing shortstop and Ariz is at second, and the infield defense is paramount with some guys. I mean, to paraphrase what Mike Schilt has been saying on this, it is really day to day. And like, depending on who's on the mound, whether you get a guy who's going to give up more ground balls, whether you need more range in the infield. So I think it's fine to take that day-to-day approach. Absolutely the best offensive option at shortstop is Cronenworth there, Arise at second, or Hearn at first. But there's just, if you're facing a lefty, Iglesias is solid enough, and I don't want to be losing that middle infield defense of Iglesias at short, Cronenworth at second.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you there. Speaking of day-to-day, can the Padres even afford to give Gavin Sheets a single day off? I mean, he has helped carry them down the stretch. I don't know where the Padres would be position-wise if they did not have Gavin Sheets over the past couple of months. I know yesterday in postgame, Jackson Merrill made the case for Manny Machado, who has been struggling recently, Manny Machado and Gavin Sheets as co-MVP.
Yeah, he's been awesome, and I don't think you can sit him. I mean, I also think that, like, down the stretch, these games, giving a guy a day off means he'll probably come off the bench and play, and it's not the worst thing because this is a stretch of 19 games in 20 days, and you're trying to keep guys fresh for the playoffs. So, like, does Gavin Sheets have to play all 17 remaining games?
Yes.
I think it's 18. He has to play all of them, but I would say he has to start, I don't know, 15, 16 of them. Like, he needs to be starting very regularly and being that first option off the bench. He's been so good. He's been so good against lefties. He's the guy that, like, when Nick Lodolo was dealing last night, he was the guy that was working the toughest at bats and also reached base a couple times. So, like, you have to start him against lefties. You have to start him against righties. You get to the playoffs. Gavin Sheets is in that starting lineup, likely at DH, and then you figure it out from there.
AJ, can the Padres make a deep playoff run? Do you feel the Padres can make a deep playoff run if they don't get Manny Machado going? And I know what Mike Schultz is going to say. I know guys in the clubhouse will say it's not about just one guy. It's about every single guy in this clubhouse. Every guy has to contribute. But can they, come playoff time, do you think they can make a deep run if he does not get going offensively?
I do. I do. I don't think, like, if Manny Machado is Manny Machado level playoff good, like, then the Padres are obviously in great shape, like what we've seen in the playoffs before. But if Manny Machado kind of continues to be in these struggles where, I mean, I think he's still finding his way on base every now, like, significantly less than he has, but he's still hitting the ball the other way. He got robbed last night of a hit. I think the answer is yes. Like, their lineup is deep enough. This would have been a no before the trade deadline. Their lineup is deep enough to me, and not to bring this back to Michael King, like, they need that second starter the most. If Manny Machado isn't hitting like Manny Machado, and you expect him to hit like Manny Machado at some point, that's why you keep running him back out there every single day in the number 3 spot, because he has earned that, because he has proven that he can be that guy. And I think he will maybe not be the guy that was, like, just on a tear in July and early August, but I think he will hit again like we have come to know. But if he continues to struggle, you keep playing him right there, expecting that will come, and also understanding that, like, behind Machado right now, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are so much better than they were before the trade deadline. And you can, it gets, I know it gets frustrating to fans if Manny Machado is making outs in key spots right now, but, like, this is a guy who's been extremely clutch in the past and who's been, like, who's carried the Padres at times.
Yeah.
So he's very obviously solid at third base. So you plug him right in there at third base, you bat him third. And if he's not going, then you have Gavin Sheets behind him, and Ramon Laureano and Ryan O'Hearn and Jackson Merrill, guys that have started to get going lately. And then you eventually assume that Machado will get going. So I say yes. I don't think Machado needs to be. I don't know if you can have struggling Machado and Tatis.
Yes.
But if one of them is a little not quite themselves, I think you can still make a deep playoff run because of bullpen, because of the lineup depth, and because they're getting Michael King back and he needs to be good.
The bullpen is so key. Okay, and to wrap things up. So yesterday at Petco Park, I'm at the game clearly, but I'm also scoreboard watching what's happening with the Dodgers. Tanner Scott just getting booed again after. I mean, he's been an absolute disastrous signing for the Dodgers and what was supposed to be Dave Roberts' deepest bullpen. So I'm watching that game. I'm keeping eyes on the Minnesota Vikings and the Bears. Bears blew it yesterday. The Dodgers don't have the it factor. That one thing I've learned about this team, about watching baseball this year and the matchups, the Dodgers do not have the it factor. And it's because of that leaky, terrible bullpen. Do the Padres have it factor? Yes, but I think it might come down to, it's going to come down to Michael King being healthy. I know I keep saying this, so
but
much.
This
There's
is
so much
important.
on tonight's start.
There's so much. It's not necessarily on tonight's start. It's just Michael King looking like Michael King in these 4 starts. But they should have the it factor because like they're going to lose some games in this stretch right now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And fans are going to get upset, and they're going to have lost them because they're playing, I think it's 19 games in 20 days, and the bullpen is not going to be so fresh. Guess what happens when you get to October? Like,
What happens?
you have off days. You have off days. You have lots of off days. I think you get to the NLDS this year, I want to say it's game, off day, game, off day, game, off day, game. It's a lot of off days. That's a lot of time to reset your bullpen, to give Mason Miller and Robert Suarez and like guys that in the playoffs you're going to want pitching multiple innings the chance to rest. And Morihone, like they're going to use Morihone. Morihone's been so good this year. I mean, you want to talk about team MVPs. Like I know Jackson Merrill shouted out Manny Machado and Gavin Sheets, and I can't argue with that because
give it
like
to the bullpen. Four horsemen.
Guys,
give it to the four
yeah,
horsemen.
but like give it to the four horsemen. And I think the guy that's been the best of the four horsemen and the most important because he's the lefty and he's the guy that comes in to get these huge outs like TJ Friedel last night. Like Morihone has a case for team MVP right now. You're going to get Morihone rested that much and able to pitch up and down multiple innings. Like that is a huge factor. If you can get 5 innings from your starter, this team will be in very, very good shape. I know you said you're scoreboard watching the Dodgers. You say they don't have the it factor. Like, I would tend to agree with that right now. I didn't think they had it last year, and they kind of flipped that switch after that Padres series. So I will wait to reserve judgment. I do think, like, the Phillies have a pretty good it factor right now with what their bullpen is, but they just put a couple guys on the IL. The Brewers clearly have some sort of it factor. I'm still not entirely sure what it is, but they just keep winning. So like the matchups are going to be tough. The National League is really good and really interesting. And I am like, you know me, I've booked like all these different hotel playoff scenarios, like and I can cancel them all, but in the event that they're playing this team in this city, like all of those matchups that I have booked are like really interesting and really fascinating. So do the Padres have the it factor? It'll come down to their bullpen. If they get games to their bullpen, I think they absolutely do with the lead.
Okay, AJ, you have to do your fans, your viewers a service. Now, later today, I need to see a copy of your itinerary. I need to know like the hotels. What do you think right now? And there's a lot has to happen. It's not just what the Padres do; it's what other teams do. What do you think is the most likely first matchup?
I honestly think right now it's most likely. I was trying to log into my Marriott account, apparently logged me out. I can show you all my reservations.
Okay.
I think most likely is at home in the wild card series because I think they can catch the Cubs.
Okay.
Or the Dodgers. Like that's what it comes down to, is catching one of those two teams to play a home wild card series. And everyone wants to catch the Dodgers and win the National League West, and that's been the Padres' goal the whole season, and they haven't won a division in 19 years. But if they're not going to also catch the Phillies, then the benefit of winning the division is basically the same as if they were the first wild card. It's hosting that wild card series. And I think hosting a wild card series is huge because the Padres have been, like, we've seen what it does for the Padres the last 2 times they've hosted a wild card series. It's been a big deal that they were at home. So most likely, I think the Dodgers have a relatively easy schedule. Padres are a game back, and the Dodgers have that tiebreaker. The Cubs have a little bit of a tougher schedule, I want to say. I think the Padres play a home wildcard series, and it wouldn't shock me if they're playing the Cubs at Petco Park. I also think it's possible they're playing the Cubs in Chicago.
Okay.
But then there's the possibility that they're at home hosting the Mets. And then there's also the possibility that they're going to Milwaukee in the next round or Philly in the next round. And I have all these options booked. So we'll see. We'll see where I end up. But don't all those sound like really exciting series? Like it's going to be, the National League is going to be awesome.
It's going to be fantastic. I'm just wondering, like, what's the ideal matchup for the Padres?
That's a really good question. I have not dug into it. This sounds like a next week. This sounds like a next week question. Okay. I have not dug into like matchups, like what it would be. I know the Cubs have, all these teams have some pretty good pitching options at the front of their rotations. We'll get a Mets preview next week. So I think that's the time to do it is before that Mets series starts.
I'm just bummed that the way it's lining up, Michael King, he won't face the Mets. So we're not going to have we can't revisit who won the Michael King Juan Soto trade. We're going to have to wait for the postseason for that one. Because that, to me, That's where it's going to come down. We thought we were done grading Juan Soto, Michael. No.
The Padres.
There's more.
When Michael King, if Michael King's starting Game 1 at Petco Park against Juan Soto in the first inning, that'll be. There's storylines too. These playoffs are going to be awesome.
I can't wait.
3 weeks from today they start. So we'll see if there is a possibility the Padres catch the Phillies, get that bye. I think if you're scoreboard watching, there's no harm in scoreboard watching the Phillies as well. That's unlikely. I think they're pretty good. I think they're going to get that number 2 seed, but catching the Dodgers has about as much importance tangibly in terms of what it means in the playoffs as catching the Cubs. So those are the 2 teams I would be watching on the scoreboard right now.
I know the Padres pitching staff would value the extra days. The one guy who's not going to like it, his name is Jackson Merrill, because he does not want to take
he doesn't want off days.
No off days. He reminded us of that again last night. All right, AJ, who's calling me right now? All right, AJ Cassavell. Thank you for this. I'm sorry. These tiny little headphones squeezing my head. I can't concentrate right now.
I think it's good luck.
You think so?
Bring them back next week. Yeah. Although they are a little too Mets colored. Maybe not. So it will be Padres Mets next week. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I look forward to I can't wait for that conversation is going to be a blast. That's what the Padres' toughest remaining series, the Mets next week, and then Milwaukee. But when Milwaukee comes to San Diego, they may have nothing left to play for. It sounds like they won't at that point. Right?
I think they will. They will be playing. They might have the division clinched. I think they'll still be playing for home field advantage at that point. So they'll still have something going on. It might not be as important to them, but another series I'm really looking forward to. I mean, this is the fun part of the season. The postseason is going to be really good. Wherever the Padres end up, their goal should be home playoff games right now.
I agree. All right, AJ, thanks for your time. I really appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you at Petco Park later on today. I want a full glimpse of your itinerary. I may need to go ahead and steal some ideas and figure out if I can make my way out to
Chicago's a tough
TBD.
booking. They really got to get that home series. That'd be good.
Okay. I appreciate you, AJ Cassavell. We're talking to AJ Cassavell. I'm Marty Cassavell. We're brought to you by the all-new Hummel Casino Resort, the Players Place. A big night tonight at Petco Park. It's the return of Michael King. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Thanks, AJ.
Thanks, Marty.
We're going to talk about earthquakes? No. Yeah, I thought you want to talk about baseball.
Where are you on the Astros sign stealing scandal and the resulting punishment?
I wasn't going to be answering no Astros questions today.
That's right, Rook. That's right, Rook.
Baseball's where I belong. I don't care what field. I love this team. I want to be here forever. I want to be the Padres forever. But baseball is what I always love.
Since we're in the moment, is there a more annoying sports phrase than get in the hole?
Oh, you're saying for this?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about?